Hello, this is John Cook, Program Director of the 2024 Mint Film Festival. I'm here with a very special interview with Iranian actress Azadeh Seifi. We were able to get this interview conducted over FaceTime. It was really a privilege to sit down with her. Azadeh was the lead actress in the film Introduction, which was the first film in this program. And I think that you will really enjoy what she has to say about it. Not just about this film, but about the filmmaking culture in Iran. So just a caveat that we did have some points at which the audio breaks up, but I think you can still, through context, figure out what she's saying. And I've included a few subtitles in there for you to clarify some of the names or people that she mentions. So please enjoy this interview. And special thanks to Azadeh for making this interview happen, and also to Mohammed at Madakto Pictures, not only for coordinating this, but for all the wonderful films that he sent us. Thank you so much for joining us here. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I'm sure that our audience, if you had been there, they would have a lot of questions for you, but I have some questions that I'd like to ask, just if you can tell us more about how Introduction was made. So the first question is, can you tell us a little bit about the cast and crew and how you all came together to work on this project?
Yes, and at first I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about our short film. And it was a short film, and most of the short films in Iran are kind of made independently. So, and it's a kind of very small community to find the cast and crew for a short film. It has its own community of short filmmakers. And I had done a lot of short films before, so I was invited to this project, and it was just the same for the other people. It's just a small community, and all the people, they do this kind of short films. So we all kind of know each other and just get introduced to each other for this film.
I noticed there were a number of films from Madakto Pictures that were submitted to our festival. And Mohammed was my contact there. So do you work with people that have worked on some of these other films for that company?
Well, actually, Madakto is our distributor, our international distributor. So the process is we do this film, and after that, in post-production, they just introduce this film to this distributor. And I think I have another film with Madakto, I'm not sure, but there are lots of good short films that Madakto is working on them.
Yeah, so he submitted quite a few to me, but there were so many good films in what he sent me that it was hard. Well, we came to the decision that there's no way that we can choose just one of these. So we created an entire program of Iranian films.
I'm happy to hear who has received such good films.
Yeah, so I was so impressed, and our other screeners were too, just at the quality of the films. So we're very grateful that he reached out, because he had not been able to submit the traditional way. So we gave him a waiver to be able to submit, and it was very much worth it. So going back to the production of the film, because it is in a single take or a single shot, I'm just wondering how was this all coordinated? Because I can't. There's so much subtlety in how it's presented, and it's so meticulous. Even just things like the timing of it, when the child Radin is taken away by the uncle, you can just see him in the corner of the frame that his arm is being pulled, and so it just says so much with that little piece of detail. But I'm just wondering how did you coordinate this to get it to work so well? Did it take a lot of rehearsal or a lot of takes doing this?
Well, the whole film is not just one take. The whole film is not, but we have many long takes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking on behalf of director too, because I know some of his ideas. He had this idea that camera should just stay in the car because the car was kind of a metaphor of a safe zone. Mm-hmm. The car was our. And yes, in the scene that you just mentioned, that the kid kind of ran after him, you just can see us from the window, and you cannot see us directly. And it was his idea that the camera must stay there. And about the rehearsals, no, we didn't have much because we wanted to shoot on the street. It was just near North, and the street was so crowded. And it was so hard to do that. But we rehearsed a lot at home, just not in the location. And it was so hard because, I had to drive and crowded, yeah. Mm-hmm. And the engine of the car used to make a terrible sound. And we had this kind of problems. But, I think the screen writer, which is director, our screenplay was very, easy to do, It was like a very simple story, but with very complicated situation. And I think it didn't problem. But the production was hard because it was on the street, just near Nowruz is our New Year, and it was very crowded on the street.
Yeah, I imagine that life intruded quite a bit while you were shooting. Especially on that day with so much going on. Yeah, and like you said, it is a complex story, even though it's simple. And I think that's what's so great about it is there's so many layers of narrative happening at once. And the perspective shifts from one character to another. So you're kind of seeing it through her eyes and through the man's eyes and through the child's eyes at different points. So it's, and I just wanted to ask about, because in this film and so many Iranian films that I've seen, just not only the ones in the festival, but from the great Iranian filmmakers of the past, it feels like the basic humanity of every character is respected, and it just feels like you can sympathize with everyone. And I'm just wondering, what do you think influences that? Is it the fact that your culture is so much older than ours, or is it I noticed that the director has an advanced degree in theater and literature. Do you think that played into it? Or what do you think influences that?
Actually, our director was very great at writing. He had seen so many movies, and I think it's very important for any director to watch great movies. And as much as I know, is very inspired by the Turkish director Ceylan, also Mr. Kiarostami. And if you see those movies by them, you can see this non-judgmental thing that you can see all the characters' point of view, and you don't judge them because it's their world and it's their mechanism of reactions. You cannot judge the boy because he doesn't care about that kid, and you cannot judge the woman because she just simply wants not to go to the park because of the kid. So I think it's maybe because of our literature and our cinema and our role models, which are Mr. Kiarostami, Mr. Farhadi, and their movies is always like this, and we try not to judge, not being judgmental thing, kind of flowing in our cinema in these recent years.
Well, yes, I can definitely see those influences, but it still feels like a fresh and original film. I know that Ceylan was influenced by Chekhov in some of his works. Great. Yeah, so I can see that influence in this as well. just in the way that the characters interact. I also wanted to ask about the significance of the holiday of Fireworks Wednesday, and why did you choose that day for this story to take place, and how does it relate to the film?
It's a long story, and I try to just say it in the most short possible way. That day is very important in Iran. Mm-hmm. It's an important cultural event, and because of all the things that had happened before, what I mean, what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get political, but all the things that had happened before. It's kind of like a day that it is, but there are lots of fireworks and sound. It's like a war, kind of, Mm-hmm. It's a kind of calm and just happy day. It's like war on the street. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was also a metaphor. I don't know. I think the director must have heard. But in my point of view, because it's kind of a little war on the streets, you can hear a lot of like grenades. I don't mean the war grenades, but they're kind of grenades, and you can hear them exploding on the street. And maybe because that day is very tense, and you really can get scared in the streets. It's really, really scary, mostly in Tehran.
Does it feel like a sense of unity with people on that day, or is it really more tension?
I thought about this, but when you mentioned that, yes, maybe it can have unity too. Yes. On a very tense day, mm-hmm. Yeah, we are united in a very tense day. Yes, yeah, it is too. Yeah.
And I read somewhere that the holiday goes back to 1700 BCE. Is that correct? So
I believe it's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So definitely much older than the United States and Europe and even Christianity and Islam, and it's very, very old. So I think that just the fact that it's such an old tradition with such a problem that's very much in the moment, or the situation that's very much in the moment, it creates a really interesting tension there.
Yeah, and there are a lot of ironies like this. Like, for example, the name of the movie is Introduction. And that introduction was supposed to happen that night in the woman and the boy's family. But the whole situation turns out to be the introduction between themselves. And it's like that they just know each other for the very first time. Just become masked and unveiled. And there are lots of things like this about this film.
Yes, they got some pressure put on the relationship maybe for the first time and starting to reveal the cracks, I guess.
Yeah. For me, when I was reading it was just that they just got to know each other. It was like they were estranged before. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was very interesting. This idea of introduction, title of the movie, and the man that was about to happen that night. But it turned out to be the whole situation was an introduction.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I hadn't thought about the title in relation to it. That's very interesting. I wanted to add that in the final scene, when your character is trying to decide what to do, because she knows she has a moral obligation on one hand, and then she has like a social obligation on the other hand. And I love that shot where it's just your eyes in the mirror, because your performance is so wonderful there, because you can see that conflict in the eyes. And
thank you.
Yeah, so I loved that about the film. And to end with that, it just punctuates it so beautifully. So very well done. I can't believe you didn't have much rehearsal, that you can put something like this together with.
impossible. We couldn't.
I suppose, yeah. Yeah, because
And
it has to come out of life, I imagine. And
yeah, it was just in the moment. I felt all the pressure that the character was feeling,
mhm,
I was ready to burst into tears. I didn't know that what she would do. I know that what the character would do, and she did. She turned back to pick up the kid, and I think
mhm,
it's the theme of the movie. My perspective, I think it's the theme of the movie that it is moral and social responsibility. It's
mhm,
about the situation that we can turn a blind eye and we can take action, but there are going to be consequences. And
mhm.
maybe both the kid is a metaphor for
Yeah.
many others like this. And maybe the reason that our director picked a woman for being the lead for this movie is because now women are change makers in the world. I mean, mostly in a country like Iran. And we try to just do something. We take action. I don't be unfair to men, no, but it's just about women. And we are paying the price. We are taking action no matter what. And I think this whole situation is a metaphor.
Mhm.
And it kind of maybe the representative of all the people who want to do something, people who care. And this was very interesting for me about the story.
Yeah, it's true because I suppose the story could have been told with the gender roles flipped
Yeah.
easily, and I think that was an excellent choice. So yeah, and again the mirrors were so central to the story. So seeing your eyes in the mirror, and then seeing different things play out in the mirror as the camera moves, and then especially the scene where we see the rear view mirror where Radin runs away and you go after him, and then there's this tension there where we hear a car brake and then it goes
Yeah.
past and then we're
Yeah.
not sure what happened, and that's beautifully done too. But do you think the mirrors play into that metaphor as well that you're referring to?
Of course. Our director, I'm sure that he had thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
And all the great, I don't want to say about our film, I'm saying generally that in cinema, mirror is always a metaphor for maybe our internal thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
the real version of ourselves. We cannot lie to the mirror about ourselves. And maybe
Yeah.
that then I know it's a situation that we get to know our real personality. Our real personality gets to be defined in this kind of situations, in a social responsibility kind of situation. And maybe the mirror is representing our inner court, that you have to face yourself. At the end of the day, you have to face yourself and think about what you had done. Did you just let the kid go, or did you do something? Because the kid is obviously in danger, and the
Mm-hmm.
kid is obviously scared. So yes, I think the mirror is very important, and it is picked intentionally.
Because I saw all these films come at the same time, I'm just wondering, do you feel that there's like an artistic movement or a rising new generation of really talented Iranian filmmakers that's happening there right now?
Yes, I believe yes. And I think that the kind of very great movement by very independent directors. Now the cost of making films in mainstream cinema is so high, but we have very creative directors that try to make it with the lowest possible budget, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very talented. Yes, you're right. Not just in short films, it's also in feature films. We had
Mm-hmm.
lots of great Cannes Film Festival, in Berlin Film Festival, and they were all independent.
Mm-hmm.
And happening right now in Iran.
So are most of these directors in their 30s and 40s?
Yes. I
Okay.
know most of them are their 30s, 40s. They're very young, very talented. I want to emphasize on this that the most important thing is they are independent. They are not related to any organization or any big production company. They are independent. It's very important. In a country like this, with all these problems, you have to struggle a lot to make a movie independently, and they're doing a very great job.
Are these projects generally self-financed? Do they just make with their own money, or do they find investors?
Maybe they are not self-financed, but the investors are just ordinary people. They are not organizations, or they are not professional producers or professional investors. They are very low budget films, and they are made by a small amount of money that some people who are willing to make a short film or who are willing to make a film independently, they are helping.
Okay. And is there a good movie theater culture in Iran? Do people still go to see movies in theaters, or do they mostly watch them online now?
Well, I believe that something has changed during these recent years, that some serious moviegoers, they don't go to the movie theaters anymore, and they just want to see them after they're on online streams. But yes, we still have blockbusters, but most of them are comedy. I don't want to say it's bad, but the fact that all blockbusters are comedies, I think that it's something important. It's not good that all the films that are grossing, they're just comedies, not other kind of serious films. Most of them, they cannot be very successful in movie theater.
Okay. Are there movie theaters that are smaller that play the independent films?
We had some lines of screenings like Art and Experience, as we call it, Honar و تجربه in Farsi, and yes, they are for more independent films. And but they are not that much, and they are not available in all the cities. They are just in some big cities. I think in 5 or 6 cities in Iran, and theaters are very smaller, and the time of screening are very, you cannot compare that to big films. And but we still have, I think, good.
Yeah, that's part of our mission with our festival, is to try to get people to come to movie theaters and experience movies together. And the types of films we choose are generally more artistic films. Well, sometimes the festival in the past has had films that would be considered more commercial, but they're generally every film in our festival is an independent film. So we definitely relate to what you're saying there.
Yeah, that's really great. Kind of films, they are made independently. So obviously they don't have much money to promote their films. So if there are some platforms or some festivals that can support it, that's very grateful, because they don't have that much money to just present their films they're just making it with their own money or with very private investors.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything you'd like to add that you didn't say, or would like to tell us about the film that we didn't cover?
I covered everything, and I said whatever I wanted to say about this film. And
okay.
I want to thank for having me and talking to me about our film.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate it.